Live. We're live. Hey.
Hey, everybody.
We'll just wait for a few people to join us, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm Tony Dietz, president and founder of Paxauris. Thank you so much for joining our live stream today. This is the first time we've done this, so forgive us if there's any technical glitches or anything like that. I'd like to introduce Connor Thompson.
Hello.
Our lead engineer, in charge of all the testing of the earplugs and manufacturing. Has anyone joined yet?
Yeah, it looks like we have 3 people connected.
Nice. Sweet. Welcome.
We just got a question from Kevin. They ask, I have a perforated eardrum that is too damaged to be repaired. Are these earplugs finally the solution that will allow me to go underwater without fear and without risk?
Well, that's a very good question, and we could never say, Kevin, without risk. The earplugs do a great job of sealing against water ingress, so they will keep your eardrum dry. However, they are not completely fail-safe in that after you use them a number of times, eventually there is a risk that the earplug will fail. So you would need to talk to your doctor about what the potential risk is if you do end up getting water ingress into your ear, because nothing is completely fail-safe. However, if your goal is to very rarely have water into your ear, and if you can tolerate if it is happen very rarely, and it's not a catastrophic occurrence, then these earplugs will work great with you. But we do say make sure you talk to your doctor about the possibility that the earplugs do fail because they are not fail-safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great question. Yeah. Okay, so launching into some of our pre-written questions here.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing, we're currently entering the last week of our Kickstarter campaign. Would you consider it a success so far?
Oh yeah, it's been a fantastic success. Very, very exciting. We went into this just trying to see how much interest was out there in this unique and new product. We met our funding goal in the first 26 minutes of the campaign, and we hit 50,000 in backer funding in the first 24 hours. So it's already been a massive success, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah. And then what's going to happen once the campaign ends in about a week or so?
Yeah, so what the campaign lets us do now is to go into scale our production. Because we know our order size, we can now order multi-cavity molds. These are earplugs. The parts are made with liquid silicone injection molding, and our cost comes down as we increase the number of cavities in each mold. So right now we're making our earplugs with single cavity molds. That makes them very expensive to make. But once we go to multi-cavity, when we're talking 8 cavities per mold, anywhere up to 50 cavities per mold, the cost drops dramatically, and that's what lets us bring it to market. So the first thing we're doing, in fact, we've already done it, is we've ordered the issued purchase orders for the multi-cavity molds for the different earplug parts. And then the second thing we're doing is we're automating some of our production to make sure that we can deliver the earplugs on time.
Yeah, that automation process is something that I'm working on improving daily so that we're able to get those earplugs out to you all.
Yeah, increases speed of production, but also reliability of our parts.
Yeah. And then have there been any surprises so far with the campaign?
Good question. There has been some surprises, some good, some bad. We've been pleasantly surprised at the level of interest. We did start some pre-marketing before the Kickstarter. We had some marketing students who lit up our socials with some great reels. A couple of those went viral, kind of to the level of 250,000, 500,000 views. That got picked up by some YouTubers who then republished our reels, and we're getting a lot of interest, like 20 million views. And then the thing that blindsided us was that woke up some scammers who then scraped our copyright content and then started selling our earplugs, and that they weren't actually selling anything, but they were ripping people off. And so suddenly our earplugs are for sale on Amazon, on Instagram, on Meta, on Walmart, eBay, you name it. And they're just selling nothing or different types of fake earplugs because our earplugs aren't even on the market yet. That's why we're having a Kickstarter. Yeah. So that was a surprise.
Yeah, it was definitely not something that we were expecting.
Right.
We're getting some good questions in the chat here. So from Juliet, she asks, how are the Paxauris earplugs an improvement on foam earplugs or other things on the market?
Yeah, thanks, Juliet. The big difference, and these earplugs are really unique in that the foam earplugs people are familiar with, you have to roll them and put them in your ear, wait for them to expand, and there's a very lot of variation in the performance you get. With these earplugs, you stick it in your ear, you can see it here, and then you push this bulb at the back to inflate it. And so it gives a reliable, consistent seal every time.
Yeah.
It's also reusable. You can wash it, reuse it, whereas these foam earplugs are mostly single use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then from a different perspective, that inflation, there's a bulb on the back, and then kind of like a syringe, you press your thumb in, and then it inflates like that. And then to deflate it, you just pull on the tab, and it deflates.
And one nice advantage of these, if you have very tortuous ear canals like me, I've got a condition called surface ear, which these bony little bumps that grow in your ear if they're exposed to cold water. It makes it very hard for me to get a foam earplug to seal in my ear. In fact, they don't seal at all. What I can do with these is, like if I open my ear up, and then I can maneuver this round until I find it's in the right position, and then I inflate it. And if I want to talk to someone, I can then deflate it. Hey, I can talk to you is fine. And then with a push, I can inflate it again. So that's it is really a unique product.
Yeah.
And a whole different way of thinking about how to use earplugs.
And then Sheldon asks, my wife and I have very small ear canals. So is the small earplug what you would recommend? And then will the molds make plugs in the USA? I think they were trying to say molds there.
Yeah, sure. Yes, the small earplug is definitely what we recommend. We're very interested in feedback from people who have small ear canals. We took a survey of 20 different subjects in a study we did at ASU. We molded all their ears, and then we looked at the dimensions of their ear canals. And then we also had one of our engineers who had particularly small ear canals. She was our test subject for us determining the correct size for that small. So we know it does work for people with small ear canals. Of course, there is a range in any kind of study of humans, in that there'll be some that are just got really tiny earplugs that you may not be able to get this earplug to fit in. But we figure it'll cover 95% of ear canal sizes. One important thing to do is open your ear canal up. That really helps you get the earplug seated in there. And then it's very comfortable once you have it in there to inflate it.
Then we have another question here from David. They ask, how do the earplugs handle UV, and how long do you expect them to last?
UV is not our issue here. Silicone, which all the parts are made out of, and the glycerin inside is very stable and ages well. Where there might be some slight discoloration from a lot of sunlight exposure, but that's about it. They still keep working fine. What is the life-limiting factor is the number of cycles, the number of times you inflate, deflate, inflate, deflate. We have a machine which we run them through thousands of cycles to understand what that life is, and that's where our recommendation of 3 months of daily use is about what you could expect from an earplug. We all just run the earplugs till they fail. But if you really don't want it to fail in your ear, which means you would have some little glycerin just wet your ear and leak out, that we would recommend placing them every 3 months.
And then another question from Kevin. They ask, are there any special precautions for using the earplugs in salt water, such as cleaning or anything else?
Well, we do recommend rinsing them afterwards. Connor actually is doing a test right now to see if there is any long-term effects of exposure to salt water. We're not quite sure what the answer is. We've soaked them in salt water and seen no effect.
Yeah, so far we haven't seen much changes, but there's always that possibility that if you were leaving them in salt water for a really long time, that might cause some adverse effects on the earplugs. So we would encourage you to rinse them after use. And it also is probably not the most fun to put a salt-covered earplug back in your ear if the water's evaporated and then left salt crystals on its surface.
One thing we have noticed, Kevin, is that as you use the earplug, it does tend to wear in. So when you first get it, the first time you pop it, it's quite stiff in this bulb region. As you inflate it and deflate it more, it does tend to become softer. And the whole design of the earplug is a balance between the force of this cap holding the pressure at the tip. And so in our latest redesign, which is our Gen 6, which is what we'll be delivering, we've put a lot of effort into getting that balance just right so that it's comfortable and yet lasts a long time, even including that general softening that occurs over time.
And then we have a question here from Azura. They say, hello, looking forward to seeing the earplugs in their final form. Question, since the earplugs contain a liquid, does the liquid manage temperature well? As in, are they ever cold or hot in the ear?
Yeah, the liquid will equilibrate with whatever temperature the earplug's in. When you put it in your ear, it quickly adjusts to your body temperature. It has quite a high thermal conductivity, and so it does balance quite well. We have left them out in the Arizona sun. We've had them sitting at about 160 degrees, I think it was, Fahrenheit. That's like 50 plus Celsius.
Yeah, something around there.
Been in America too long. And they were fine. The glycerin and silicon was stable at that temperature. We've also frozen them down to kind of minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and again, they still remained able to use. Whereas if you have a foam earplug at that temperature, it's rock solid. There's no way you're going to get it into your ear. I stuck a minus 10 Fahrenheit earplug into my ear. Felt a bit cold, but it quickly equilibrated to body temperature. The weird thing was I got the leans because it was cooling down my semicircular canals while the earplug was heating up. So I had this weird feeling that I was going to, my head started wanting to lean over. That was the only effect. If you put two in at the same time, that effect will balance out.
Yeah. Just for comfort, you might want to try and warm them up in your hands first if they're really, really cold. But other than that, they shouldn't have any problems associated with that.
You'll be fine. Your ear's probably so cold at that temperature anyway.
Yeah, potentially. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat at the moment, so we'll go back to some of our pre-made questions. And then, so Tony, how do you use the earplugs in your everyday life?
Right, yeah, I mostly use them for swimming. What I've found, because of my surface ear condition, I don't want to swim in cold water at all. In fact, I don't like having any water in my ears, so I always now religiously use them whenever I go swimming. What they've allowed me to do here in Arizona, I can swim about a month earlier than I normally would, because I can swim in colder water temperature without getting earaches or headaches, and also without concern of making my surface ear worse. I also am more comfortable if I'm swimming in open water, worried about getting ear infections. I'd always at the beginning of the season get 1 or 2 ear infections, earaches, which then stop me swimming because I have such tortuous canals. Now I haven't got an ear infection at all since using the earplug. I also use them occasionally to help me fall asleep. Definitely use them when I'm traveling.
On the plane.
Yeah, sometimes if I'm at a cafe or even working at home and someone else is on a call, I'll put the earplugs in to help myself focus. Those are my main uses.
Yeah. And then force related to swimming, do the earplugs float in the water? What happens if they fall out while you're swimming?
They sink. They don't fall out. But if you take them out, and like I said, if you're talking and you leave it just sitting in your ear, then it might fall out if you get hit by a wave or if you jerk your head. So in that situation, we do have a version that comes with a cord, and the cord has on it a clip. So if you're surfing or swimming, you can clip this onto the back of your wetsuit or your rashi, and then the earplugs are well constrained. You won't lose them. Also, this is how some of the yard workers who use our earplugs, they'll just have it around their neck like this, put it in, then when they're not using it, to have it just hanging around the neck. So that works really well. The nice thing about the cord is it just slips into the end of the earplug, so you can just take it out and slip it back in. It's very easy to take on and off the cord.
Then we have got some more questions now from Juliet again. Is there any chance of the glycerin getting in your ear if it ruptures? And then is there any chance that the glycerin is, they say evil, but probably harmful to your ear canal?
Glycerin. Yeah, glycerin is perfectly safe in your ear. There is a small chance, if you're replacing the earplugs every 3 months, there's a very small chance that one will fail in your ear. I think we calculated as 1%, when we looked at our life tests with our inflations. If that does happen, then what happens is you just get a little bit of glycerin in your ear. It drains naturally. Glycerin is a material that audiologists use to clean out earwax, so it'll give your ear a bit of a spritz, soften the earwax, help it clean out. Glycerin is also used in a lot of skincare creams and skincare products because it's a great moisturizer, so it'll moisturize your ear a bit. I've had maybe, especially the early models, probably 20 earplugs fail in my ears. Never had an issue. Also, I've had them drip out all over my shirt. It doesn't stain your shirt. Glycerin's, in fact, a stain remover. I've also had them in client meetings where it squirted all over the desk.
Yeah, we've had
But
some.
these were the early models. The latest model, very durable. With it, Connor and I have had table tennis games with these earplugs.
Yeah.
We're not so concerned about them failing at all now. In fact, I haven't had one of these fail in my ear yet, and we've been testing.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah. So and these have been running for 6 months. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But that obviously depends on the level of use. If you're using them multiple times a day, every single day, they might.
Eventually.
Yeah, they will fail eventually.
Right. Then we have another question. Sheldon, I think we forgot to address this earlier. They're asking, will the earplugs be manufactured in the USA?
Oh, yes. Yes, Sheldon, right now all the parts are manufactured in the USA. We're, especially with all these scammers and people like seeing the value of this idea and the excitement behind it, we're protecting our IP very carefully. And so that means we have patented the earplug, and we have also protecting much of the design and assembly as a trade secret. And that's a reason why we want to keep it in the US. We are looking potentially some of the parts to offshore them to bring our costs down, but the key parts like the earplug sheath, the thing that makes it work, this bubble here, we're keeping that in the US.
And then Patrick asks, did the testers have fun trying them out under earmuffs for firearms?
Well, interesting you mentioned our testers. I'd like to introduce our key tester, his name is Holofernes, and this is how we developed much of our earplugs. Here comes Holofernes now. Holofernes is a biofidelic head that I developed at a previous job and has been a huge help in developing the earplugs. I'll take his hat off so you can see him. What he is he actually, we took a CAT scan of a human head. We segmented out the bone and the tissue and the brain. We then 3D printed a skull. We put it has real ear canals, so the real bone through the ear, and has a real ear canal passage. And so that's how we can test the earplugs. And the important thing is it acts exactly like a human ear and a human head. Has a microphone at the position of the tympanic membrane. We can attach accelerometers that has a hydrophone in the brain, so we can see what the brain pressures are. And here you can see one of our earplugs in Holofernes' ear. We've subjected Holofernes to all manner of insults. Loud sounds, loud continuous sounds, gunshot sounds right next to his head. We use a starter pistol actually in our lab here to generate impulse sounds from gunshots. We've also hit him with blasts. Here we went out to the Medical College of Wisconsin, where we have a large shock tube, and we hit him with shock waves to see how the earplug and the head would respond to blast waves as well. So we've also hit him a lot with hammers, impacts, shakers. And the beauty of testing something like this is that we know, A, it's safe for humans, but he translates really well then to the results we've got with our human subject testing, which we've also done. So answer, yes, we've had a lot of fun. Yes, mostly subjecting Holofernes here to all manner of blasts and gunshots as well.
And then Dave asks, they say they only have the use of one hand. How easy would it be to insert and inflate the device in the opposite ear? So this is probably easiest done with a demonstration. So I have one of our earplugs here, and I'm just going to reach over, get it inserted into my ear canal, and then press on that bulb.
and it's inserted. You can see it's got a good seating there, and I've got hearing protection in that ear. And then I just can go ahead and kind of do a pinching motion. So with one hand, a way that I've found I'm able to deflate them is if I'm pinching on the tab that's sticking out between two fingers, and then I kind of roll them forward. I'm able to use the edges of my fingers here to press against that rim to deflate it, just so that you're not pulling the earplug out of your ear and putting all that extra pressure on your ear canal. So I think you depending on your hand dexterity, you probably could put them in on both of your ears just fine.
Also, Connor has particularly straight ear canals, so show him how you put an earplug in. He basically can just slip it straight in and inflate it very quickly. Whereas my ear canal is much more tortuous, so I actually do need to open my ear canal to get it well inserted to get a good seal. It's much harder for me to do that without opening my ear canal. So in that situation, I would find it more difficult to get it actually into my ear and inflated.
Yeah.
So it does depend a bit on how small and tortuous your ear canal is, and again, like you said, your hand dexterity. I think you should definitely try it, and chances are with a bit of practice you'll be able to get it to work.
I don't think we have any questions pending in the chat right now. So some questions that we've gotten from commenters have been making the very valid comment that they understand that sound generally travels better through fluids. If our earplug is filled with fluid, how does that actually stop the sound from making it into your ear canal?
Yeah, we have got that question a lot. It's actually a very good question, because sound does travel much more efficiently and further differences through water than air. But the difference is that sound doesn't like to travel through interfaces between different mediums that have a difference in what we call the acoustic impedance. And acoustic impedance is related to the density and the speed of sound through that medium. So when you have a sound wave that's traveling through air and it hits the air-water barrier, it's then most of it is going to reflect away, and a small amount of that energy is going to enter the water, at which point it'll travel efficiently through the water until it hits another, in this case, the water-air barrier. And again, much of it will be reflected back into the water, and only a small amount will travel into the air. So that's how the earplugs work really well, because they reflect sound at both the air-water boundary and the air-glycerin in this case, and the glycerin-air boundary. There are, of course, many other more complications. The sound is traveling through your head as well. That will conduct into the earplug and into the airspace in front of the eardrum. So we see that a bit at low frequencies. We see some interesting kind of, dynamic modes also at low frequencies, where you can get a resonance in the liquid bubble sitting in your ear. And that's one of the main reasons we have this core going through the center of the earplug, to reduce that resonance.
And then how do the earplugs handle changes in the external pressure outside the ear canal?
Right, because the ear seals the earplug seals very well. It is sealing and trapping a volume of air next to your eardrum. So when the outside pressure changes, that pressure in that volume doesn't change. And so if you then equalize through your eustachian tubes, you will get a pressure difference across your eardrum. And that's why we say limit yourself when you're diving to 6 feet, because even though you're equalized, you'll still have a trapped volume in your ear. We haven't actually tested the earplugs yet at depths below 6 feet. I've certainly dove down that low and haven't had any issues. We have tested them on airplane flights. I've tried them during ascent and descent, both leaving it sealed, and then of course, at any time you can just deflate the earplug and equilibrate that pressure. Haven't found any issues, up to cabin pressure in commercial flights. But we are working with the Navy, and we've talked to folks at the Air Force about the need to vent the earplugs for use by pilots when these are more jet pilots who are concerned about rapid decompression, and there we would need to release that pressure in that trapped volume. But for normal, everyday use swimming, commercial flights, it's not an issue.
Yeah, just no diving.
Not good for diving.
Yes. And then, so we have a question here from Ruka60. They ask, will I be able to sleep with them on my side and completely block my husband's horrific snoring?
I do. Not my husband. And I'm not saying my wife has horrific snoring at all. But I sleep with this Gen 5 earplug. I can sleep on my side just fine. The earlier ones, I would find they would, for some reason, they would poke into my ear and be uncomfortable. So then I would only put them on the side that wasn't on the pillow. With this latest version, I sleep on a side sleeper, and I sleep with them in both ears and don't have any issues.
Yeah. And then if you buy and get the earplugs, the tab on the end is quite long. We leave it that way for assembly and molding. But if you find that the length of the tab is causing you discomfort when you're sleeping or when you're trying to wear them under earmuffs, you can always trim it down as long as you're not trimming below the silver crimp there that holds back the pressure from the earplug. So you have a bit of customization options there in terms of trimming that top length of the earplug tab down.
And it's important to get the right size. You see there is a big difference between a large and a small, and that affects how much it sticks out of your ear. I don't know if you can see them here. This is the small compared to the large. You can kind of see that there. Anyway, the small, you can see, won't go into your ear as deeply as the large, and will sit more comfortably in your concha region. I use the large and sleep with the large, but we tell people try the small. If you get a seal with the small, that's going to be your preferred earplug. If it won't seal because your ear canal is diameter is too great, then switch to the large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally find that I am sometimes able to get a seal with the small earplugs for my ear canals, and that's why I use the smalls when I'm trying to sleep, because I don't need them to be super secure. I just need them to make that seal. But when I'm using them for swimming, or sometimes I use them in the shower to keep water out of my ear, in that case, I generally prefer the larges for myself because they give me a stronger seal. So I'm kind of right there in the middle where I can use either size for different purposes.
And this is some of the great feedback we're going to get from you all, from our dedicated Kickstarter community, on how the sizes are working for you and whether you think you would prefer a different size. Ideally we'd have 4 sizes: a small short, a small long, a large short, a large long. We think our current 2 sizes of small and large will cover most people, but we definitely want to hear from people if they'd prefer something different. Like, I like the large, but I can't get it deeper. It sticks too far into my ear. Or I'm the small, but I wish the small could go in deeper. That's the kind of feedback we really want.
Mm-hmm. And then I don't think we have any current pending questions. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you actually came up with the idea for the earplug originally? It's kind of a novel invention.
Sure, yeah. And I actually came up with it in response to some testing I was doing. I was developing a hearing protection helmet for a Navy aircraft carrier deck crews. So I was actually out on an aircraft carrier making noise measurements. And this is when I really came to a head that I couldn't get a foam earplug to seal in my ear. And I was very concerned because the sound level was just crazy. It's 150 decibels, the kind of sound you just hear vibrating in your chest. Knowing that even one aircraft launch in that sound level could put me at risk of hearing damage. So I was desperate to get my earplugs to seal. And the handler who was with me, he wasn't even putting any earplugs in at all. So I was just astonished. And I asked him why not. He said, it's too much hassle. We're only going out there for a few launches. And I'm like, a few launches, that's going to give you hearing damage if you don't wear earplugs. And tests had shown that for almost half the people who are either not putting their foam earplugs in correctly or not getting a good seal, even though they are. So that made me thinking, well, what would be a better design? And that's where I had the idea of an inflatable earplug. I wasn't the first to come up with that idea. There's been a host of patents before us. I even met Kevin Michaels, one of the guys who's doing our acoustic testing for us. His dad had actually patented an inflatable earplug kind of 50 years ago or so, and he had a box of them sitting out in the back room. He's like, oh, look at these, my dad invented these. But they never made it to market, and the issue was always how to inflate the earplug and get it to hold pressure. And this is our first our first attempt at an inflatable earplug. You can see it here. It has this bellows, so you kind of push the bellows in to get it to inflate, and the bellows had a ratchet mechanism inside, and that's how we kind of locked the pressure in there. Wasn't a great solution, and a lot of people had tried that. They had camelback valves in there. They had different like locks inside the bulb to get it to seal. The beauty of our design is the fact that we have this bistable cap that just is like a kid's popper toy. You push it in and it seals the pressure, it holds the pressure, and it's simple and elegant. That's the enabling technology that we've patented in the earplugs, and that's what makes them, I think, so useful.
Yeah. And then we have someone here named David saying they didn't know that there were different sizes of the earplugs, and they ask what size is in the launch day special 2-pack. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony. I think that the sizes is something that our backers will be able to select when the campaign ends. Correct. For their fulfillment. So
yeah, when the campaign closes, you'll be getting an email from us asking you what sizes, what colors, if you want any accessories with it, and you'll be able to select your colors and sizes at that point. And again, we recommend, what earbuds, ear tip size you use. If you're using a small or medium tip on your earbud, go with our small size. If you use a large tip on your earbud, go with our large size. For a 2-pack, order both sizes. You get to try them both.
Yeah, so I think we are out of pre-made questions, and I don't see any questions in the chat right now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I think in order to comment, you need to have made a YouTube channel account. So if anyone's sitting in the chat and not able to type, you can go ahead and try to quickly make a YouTube account with your Google account or however you're logged in, so you're able to chat with us. Yep. David says, I got the extra pack as well. Do you know if you get the extra packs, are you able to select one of each size, or do they both have to be the same size for the fulfillment?
You mean inside the one pair, one of each size in the pair?
They're saying they did a launch day special
and got the extra pack. So
the 2-pack.
Yeah, they've got three sets. The 2-pack plus the extra pack means they're getting 3. But I don't think we would split in a pack. You wouldn't buy one small and one.
No, is the 2-pack just 2 pairs of earplugs or a pack of 2 pairs?
2 pairs of earplugs. So you could get a large and a small.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you got an extra pack, yeah.
And this is John. John's the one who should be answering these questions. He's our CEO. He's actually based in Australia, so it's 4 a.m. for him. I don't think he's joined.
No, I haven't seen any comments from him.
Right. But he's feel free to post a comment, or if you're a backer, reach out to us or John, and we can answer any of those questions. He's been very engaged with all the comments and the VIP group.
Yes. And then Patrick asks, what was the use case that we figured for the extra premium case option? Was that just a good add-on, or did we envision a specific use case for that?
Yeah, so the use case is that it's actually durable and waterproof. And so if you are throwing your cases and your earplugs in a toolbox or a crushable kind of bag or something like that, our normal plastic cases they come in is fairly durable, but it would crush, and it also is not waterproof. And so if you're in a saltwater environment or something like that, that's when you'd go up to the premium case. It also has a carabiner attachment, so you can hang it off your backpack or your belt or something like that. So I use both in various scenarios, and
yeah,
depending on what I'm going to use it for. They're also cool colors, and they look cool.
Yeah. Trying to think of any other questions. What do you think in terms of the development side of the earplugs has been one of the biggest challenges that we've had to overcome to bringing it to market like this?
I would say our biggest challenge has been durability, and not durability by the classical sense, but in the sense of fatigue. That that did surprise us when we designed them. We designed for durability, but didn't know that much about the fatigue of silicon in inflation deflation cycles. Much of the work that had been done on silicon fatigue had been for O-rings and compressions. Where these are mostly used, besides that, is for catheters, like a Foley catheter, and they don't have a high cycle number. So we're pretty much the first people who were, or the first researchers who were really understanding the impact of materials on the fatigue life of silicon in an inflation balloon sense. So we worked with researchers at ASU. We did a lot of empirical testing. We talked to the material scientists at the silicon providers. No one really knew much about it, so we learned a lot.
Yeah.
We learned about the Mullins effect and all silicon relaxation and everything. But fatigue, we'll probably be able to write the paper on that one.
Yeah, that was something that when I started here as an intern, I was really kind of excited to be given as a project as an intern. They tasked me with finishing up a life cycle machine that had a previous intern had started working on, and then actually taking the current, I think that would be the Gen 4 earplugs at the time, and doing life cycle testing on those, really advanced life cycle testing where it's inflating and deflating it thousands of times to get a estimate of kind of what the expected life was.
Right.
And out of that, it came to the decision that we weren't really happy with where the durability was at that moment. And then we launched into redesigning the earplug, changing stuff about the geometry to improve that life to the point where we are a lot more comfortable with it now.
And we thought it would be a trade-off. Everything in engineering is a trade-off, and we thought the trade would be comfort versus life. And so we tested 4 different design changes, made molds, made the earplugs, put them in the life cycle test, and the one that worked, which is this one, actually improved the life and improved the comfort, which is rare that it works out like that.
It's not really the expected outcome when you're going towards trying to make something more durable.
Right, a 4 times increase in life, and I think they're much more comfortable.
Yeah.
So that was a pleasant surprise. Sometimes things work out for you. Murphy's law doesn't hold on.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about to our audience? I think we're out of questions here, unless anyone else in the chat right now has any more questions for us.
No, well, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support of our Kickstarter campaign. We really appreciate the amount of support we've got. It's very exciting, and it's going to let us bring these wonderful earplugs to market and let everyone try them. We knew we were onto something. I knew I was onto something when I started relying on them every day, and I wouldn't go out on a trip or something without them. But when the family members started fighting over them and feeling left out if I gave someone an earplug and not someone else, then we knew we were really onto something. And so we're really excited to be able to share it with a wider community.
Yeah. So to everybody in the chat right now, thank you for joining us. They were all amazing questions. I believe we'll be putting up a recording of this on our YouTube channel in case anyone's watching this after the fact. Thank you for kind of trusting us and backing us in our mission to provide hearing protection in this novel way.
Yeah, so thanks. I'm Tony. This is Connor.
I'm Connor.
This is Holofernes. There's a number of these heads. They're made by Criari, which is where I worked previously. They're all named after famous decapitated figures from history. Look up Holofernes. It's an interesting story.
All righty.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.